Greetings, my name is Cora Edwards. I'm an AURA and RAAH Reiki practitioner. So I do past life regression therapy work to aid and assist people to connect with their higher self and profound self-healing, and to visit past lives, so to learn more about their soul history. And also I do the sister modality, which is the RAAH Reiki, which is what we do at the beginning of an aura session. So it's the body scanning that we do at the beginning of an aura session to find out where the client may have infringements upon them. But with the RAAH Reiki session, we'll just connect with the client's higher self, and we'll find out what they are ready to release at that point in time. And then I generally connect with Archangel Michael for the body scan. So I ask him clairaudiently within my head. I'm not speaking during this, but during the process. So I'll be communicating with him and asking him and the higher self of the client and my own higher self, what is there within the client that they are ready to release today? So that is the process that I do when I'm doing a healing session for a client. And there's a little orb floating around. I love it when I see orbs. Little beautiful celestial beings floating around in my space. So So today I wanted to speak a little bit about shadow work, because my beautiful friend Clare has organised a roundtable for later on this evening, and we each have a 10-minute slot to speak about shadow work. So I decided like 10 minutes potentially may not be enough just to tell my full story. So I thought I would, for anyone that was interested, record this sort of longer version just to include everything that may be missed later on in the evenings one, which will be more of a just like finding one point to discuss, and then that will flow obviously with everybody else that's on the round table, because there will be 7 of us, I believe, which is strange and I'm not quite sure why. But just today I was guided, yesterday, sorry, I was guided to, every now and again I have like a table where I meditate and it has crystals on it, and I kind of set them into patterns. So I'll have like one in the center, and then I was guided yesterday to have one in the center with 7 around the outside in a ring. And previously I'd had like in the center, I'd had another ring with a cross. It was like an 8-pointed cross. So I was guided to rearrange that with one in the middle and then 10 around the outside, creating a larger ring, and then another to the side with 7 around the outside. So 7 seems to be, even though it's the 8th today, 7 seems to be like important, and I'm not 100% sure why yet, but it just seems to be something that's relevant and is coming up. Anyway, today being the 8th of March, it is a beautiful portal day. We have the full moon today. And I've been doing lots of work within the astral, sort of aiding and assisting. I've been getting some beautiful messages coming through. And I've shared a little bit of this on my Instagram. It just feels like the Elven Collective is here connecting with us at this time. And they are channeling through, whether we're aware of it or not, they're channeling through light language codes for all of us to receive, to absorb, to sort of aid and assist us with then broadcasting that light out. So as we're in meditation, we'll be receiving these codes within us, and then this is aiding and assisting us to then, they can work through us. That's what I feel, they're working through us to aid the collective at this time. There's a lot of cleansing going on, there's a lot of activations going on for the collective, and we're transmuting a lot of dark layers. And this morning particularly, I was called to aid and assist in the Vatican. The Vatican has been infringed upon, and as has religion in general, but this is a very dark center for a lot of this infringement. A lot of it is held within the Vatican walls and the space. There's been a lot of child sacrifice within the space. I feel there's waters underneath, and I was clearing sacrificial blood from underneath in these waterways this morning with the aid of all of the archangels. That was just what I was guided to do, to cleanse, to aid any souls that may have been affected by this horrific sort of treatment. And it just felt these were angelic souls that were easy to aid, because they held a huge amount of love light within them, and the archangels were there to aid and assist them. I'm completely going off point. So shadow work was the topic that we were guided to do later on. So that was just a little bit of me sharing what I've been doing today. So shadow work in general, what is shadow work? So I've always heard this term used, and I take it to mean sort of looking at the darkness within us. But I just feel that in a way, shadow work is ascension work. It is like the work that we're doing on ourselves. It's the process of self-mastery. That's what I see it as. That's what I see my own process that I've moved through. And I would say I first became aware of the fact that I was going through this process possibly 6 years ago when I moved. I moved from Somerset to Devon. I left behind my whole of my old life. I just felt called to do that. I had to make a fresh start. I was like really suffering because I was allowing myself to sit in that place of suffering. And I felt moving to a new location would then give me the new start that I required, and it would make everything better again. And when I came to this new place, it was a beautiful place and I met some lovely people, but I also, as you say, you can't run away from yourself. So I also had the same patterns repeating. So if I came, like some of my neighbours, like bless them, sending love to my neighbours, some of them treated me, I felt at the time, horrifically. And it was when I got to that point that I sought the aid and assistance of a psychic medium, because I've always sort of, for quite a long time, I started going to psychic mediums just to get an insight into my future and where I was going. And at this particular person that I saw, she did me a huge favour, because she kind of got me to look at myself. And it was quite a painful process at the time. I remember her saying, like, how about forgiveness? I'm getting that forgiveness is important for you at this time. And that made me just stop and think. And I was looping in this negative sort of cycle of thought pattern. So I would say I was looping. I was kind of rerunning what had happened with the neighbour in my head, what she'd said to me, what I wish I'd said to her. And it was looping round and round. And even at the time, I was aware that, like, some of those thought forms probably weren't mine, that I was probably being infringed upon by outside negative influences, because that looping to me felt unnatural. I didn't feel healthy, and I knew, because I'd started shielding and I'd kind of I've been looking outside of me for sort of help and answers, and I'd seen that you need to shield your light. So I'd been shielding myself, and the website that I'd used to do that, Schrodinger's Other Cat, it's a blog website. I'd been following them for quite a while, and they also shared that when you get these, they're called these attack thoughts. So when these thoughts come into your head that you're not comfortable with, that don't sit right with you, when you're looping in this negative way, they said to label these thoughts as attack thoughts, and just imagine metaphorically tying a rope around them with a big heavy rock on and throwing them into the ocean. So as soon as you feel yourself looping in this way, tie a rope around it. So I just literally, every time these thoughts came to me, I'd just say, tie a rope around it, throw it into the ocean. Not my thoughts. Goodbye thoughts. But that didn't really help 100% with what I was going through. And it was not until I realised that I needed to forgive. And lots of people say, well, how can I forgive? Like, this person's done that to me. How can I forgive them? They're awful. They're horrible. They're terrible. And yeah, that's very true. A lot of the time, you can't condone what somebody's done to you, because it isn't right. But the secret to it is stepping into a place of neutrality. So stepping outside of yourself, what you're going through, outside of the whole situation, standing to the side and just seeing it plain and simple for what it is. And then you see that neighbour, you see that person that's done you wrong, and you say, what pain are they going through themselves? What unseen negative influences do they have acting upon them? Perhaps they've got reptilian consciousness attached to them. Perhaps they have negative entities attached to them that are causing them to loop in these negative cycles. They're doing negative things. They haven't yet stepped into their own realization that they have their own healing work to do. They haven't yet stepped into their own realization. So not to judge them, not to say this person's wrong, they've done this, they've done that. It doesn't do us any favors. We are keeping ourselves in this negative looping cycle by going through those thoughts constantly. So you need to step outside of that, look at the situation with neutrality, and recognize, people often don't do the right thing. Many of us go through these periods in our life where we might make wrong decisions, and then we beat ourselves up about it afterwards as well. Or we see other people doing things, and it's so easy to label other people as being bad and being wrong. But just to recognize they did the best thing that they could at the time with the information that they had, and they're going through their own ascension process, their own learning process. To give them this, just send them love in that situation. That's what I try and do now. If I find myself in a situation where someone's bugging me and they've done something that I think, oh my God, what are they doing? I try and send them love, and then send myself love as well. It's like important to send yourself love as well. It's like, whatever the situation is, I don't need to allow it to lower my vibration. I don't need to allow it to infringe upon me. I can just step outside of that, see it with neutrality, see it as a learning process. These are all opportunities for us to learn, and quite often things will be presented to you by your higher self, you'll be put into situations where you have this opportunity to learn. And it's just an opportunity for forgiveness, because stepping outside, doing the shadow work is like my beautiful friend Minnie recently described it as stepping out of victim mode. And if you'd have said to me 6 years ago that I was in victim mode, I would have thought, well, that's ridiculous. I didn't see myself as a victim. I didn't feel I was a victim. Obviously, I felt that people had done me wrong, but I didn't recognize that I was putting myself into that victim mode by allowing that mental looping to continue on. You place yourself in the victim mode, and when you're in that victim mode, you're not going to heal. You're not going to get over those situations. Those situations will continue to happen to you. It will carry on, and it will carry on because you will be presented with more and more opportunities to stop looping like that, to see the bigger picture and to practice forgiveness. And once you've practiced forgiveness, once you've stopped that looping and that mental patterning, then you'll go on and you'll work on something else. Oh, the joys of ascension. It's never ending. So there's always another lesson to learn. That's what I've found through my lifetime. You feel like you've cracked something, you think, I won't make that mistake again. And then they'll give you another mistake to make, just so you can learn something new. So anyway, once I'd kind of stepped out of that patterning, that was a huge stumbling block for me. That was a really big learning point. So after that, at that point, obviously all in divine timing, I found myself with a small amount of money, and I'd been watching past life regressions on the television on YouTube. So I'd been watching lots of different practitioners, and particularly I'd been watching Alba Weinman, and it was one of her sessions that I watched where she was speaking about what she does. And what she'd said was that she wasn't psychic. She didn't have any extrasensory skills. But I saw what she did, and it just looked really brilliant. I thought she's managing really well. And yet she says that she doesn't have these additional abilities. So I was thinking, well, I don't have these additional abilities, but perhaps I could do this as well. Perhaps I could do this, this hypnosis therapy for people. Perhaps it's something that I could do. So I took this course, which was not the AURA course. It was the SCHH course, which I did with Laura Whitworth, which was a step on my path. It was a beautiful step on my path. It wasn't something that I've continued with, but it gave me the opportunity to meet lots of other practitioners and have lots of the practice sessions. So I had lots of hypnosis sessions myself, as did other people. So we kind of swapped really. And this gave me the opportunity for the next step in my path, which was looking at the karmic cycles that were in my life. So it gave me the opportunity to identify key players that I'd chosen to learn from. So we may have people in our lives, say our parents, that maybe we get on with them, maybe we don't. They're here to teach us something and we're here to teach them something. We're giving each other the opportunity to learn. And if you look back at previous incarnations, you may have played that role before. You may have been their son or daughter before in a previous life. It may have been reversed. You may have been their cousin, you may have been their friend. I mean, I've seen lifetimes with my daughter where she was my friend, my co-worker, and she was still working through some of the similar patterns that she's working through today. So I've seen a lifetime with an ex-partner, and he left me to burn in a burning building, and I saw the guilt on his face. And in this lifetime, I left him, and I felt that I didn't save him, but it's taken me a little bit of a while to realize. I mean, yes, I could have possibly done more, but for him, it was his journey and he had to kind of save himself. There's kind of all of these patterns that we see that we've done where it's kind of karma. So karma being something will happen and you maybe didn't make the right choices. So you come back again, you agree to come back again to try and balance that karma out. So a lot of the time, if you're struggling with people in your life, with friends, with co-workers or family, that is the balancing of karma. So there'll be things that you're there to learn from one another. So you'll be trying to figure this all out. And every time something's triggering you, that is an opportunity for learning. So it's something to look at, it's to figure out, why is this happening? What is it here to teach me? And having a hypnosis session is a brilliant way of looking at all of those things. Obviously, what makes life even more difficult is that we can have negative entities attached to our energetic body. So, and when you do aura, when I went on to do the aura, the reason I did that was I had a hypnosis session from a fellow SCHH practitioner at the time. She doesn't practice that modality anymore either. But She did an aura session on me. I asked her for an aura session because I just didn't feel that I could connect properly. We did body scans over and over again, and I just wasn't picking up what was there. I kind of felt like I was just grasping on the edge of what possibly might be attached to my energetic body. I felt there were things there. I could feel it. I could sense it. I couldn't see it clearly. I couldn't get a picture of what it was. And the practitioners that were doing that work for me with the best of intentions, they didn't have the ability to see that either. What is amazing about the aura practitioners is pretty much everybody, it's a process, it's a learning process, but pretty much everybody, once they decide to do that training, they have to have a session themselves. They have to do this clearing process themselves before they are qualified. So you have to have a session. You have to clear off all of this layers of darkness that might be attached to you. And a lot of it, when you get to the deeper layers, after you've got rid of like random entities and things, it will be AI, and it will be artificial technology, and it will be implants. It will be the archonic type of attachments, which are the deeper layers, which are the last ones to come off. And these were the ones that Claire helped me to move. I had in the etheric realm, sort of energetically, I had a metal plate over my head with wires coming down my arms into my hand portals, down my spine, I believe, into lots of my chakra systems, down my legs, into my feet. You've got portals in your hands and your feet. It stops you moving forwards within your feet. It stops you healing within your hands, because your hands are very powerful healing portals. And within lots of my chakras, I had lots of entities, like reptilian consciousnesses, which were attached to collectives, many things, which we removed a vast quantity of things. And once that had been done, that completely changed my whole life, because I could connect with my higher self properly, and I began to learn to trust myself. So messages started coming through clairaudiently, and you'll find a lot of people that practice aura, I think the vast majority, have extrasensory gifts. So they're going to be clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient, claircognizant. So they will have knowings, visions, all of these different ways that our higher self can communicate with them. And lots of them will see things on your energetic body with the third eye, so within their imagination, within their mind's eye. And I've had, the last session that I had, gaining confidence with a practitioner, I saw, I think, 6 or 7 things on that client, and they identified exactly the same 6 or 7 things. So I did a body scan on them. I identified those things on them, and then they found it for themselves without me telling them it was there. And then we could confirm with one another, yes, we found the same thing. And now we're going to ask for the angelic team to come in and aid us to remove that for you. So it's a powerful process. And I would recommend that everyone trains, because you don't need to be special to do this, because we are all special. We all have these abilities, but it's been hidden from us with these energetic attachments, which don't allow us to access our higher self and our higher knowing. So it's there for everybody to access, and it's a beautiful process. And if you kind of make connections with people once you're on the course, then you'll have the opportunity to practice these things on people and sort of to get to know people. And there's like a lot of support there as well. Like Aurora herself, when I've had my meetings with her when I was training, gave me so much guidance and helped me on my path. So that was like that portion of my shadow work. So going on from that, once I'd stepped onto this path of what I thought was healing, I thought I'd like removed everything from me. That was it, all sorted. All sorted, just a little bit of like small life lessons left to learn. Oh no. So what I found was, as I was starting to meditate every day, I was being guided to do energy work for the collective. So I was going to various places, and I was taking crystals. I was sort of tuning in with the energies in the area, and I just felt that my presence there was aiding. So I was being guided to go to these places, and my friends were being given similar sort of soul missions as well. So it was all really beautiful. But what was happening was, as I was sitting in meditation each morning, I would ask from Archangel Michael to do a body scan of me, and he would find things from time to time, and we would aid them to remove. And one day I sat down and I tried to connect with my higher self, and I didn't get anything. It was a complete blank. It was all gone. And I was like, oh, it's gone. I'm not clairaudient anymore. What's happened? So what I did was I used the list of things that I knew that could possibly attach to me, and I just called forth Archangel Michael. I couldn't hear him, but I just asked him to going through this list to remove all archons using the relevant symbols that we use within the aura, and then it was entities, and then it was hooks, wires, portals, close all portals, all implants to be removed, aiding negative entities to positive polarize and to ascend out, all self fractals that may be attached to them within others to sort of join them and to go also. Just a huge cleanse for every chakra, balancing out all of my chakras and polishing up my aura. And when I got to the end of that process, then I tried to connect in again, and I could. So I knew the process had been working, and I was asking, why is this happening? Because it kept happening over and over again. I thought, well, I'm shielding every day, twice a day, religiously. Not this a religion, but I'm doing it sort of twice a day. I know that this should be working, and there's a reason why it's not. And this can be a process, I think, for a lot of people. So I hear a lot of people say that they're shielding and they're still getting things attaching to them. And I believe personally that this is the reason why. What my higher self told me was that, and this can be the case for many people, that there were negative aspects of me. So that means that we've all had many, many past lives. And what we're taught within Aura is that all of these past lives, it's like layers of an onion. They're all happening simultaneously. So it's not like it's a past life or a future life. It's that all like happening in the now, all happening now. So it's only us here in this construct, in this three-dimensional realm that has time, linear time. If you're a higher dimensional being, you don't have that same concept of time because everything's happening in the now. It's kind of hard to explain and very, very hard to rationalize in your brain. But there would be, say, a reptilian aspect of me that was negatively polarized. So one of these like dark entities that had been infringed upon by archons. So an archon is an artificial intelligence. It's like, it's not organic, it's not of the light, it has no light of its own. And the archons through all time and space have infringed specifically a lot upon the reptilians, because the reptilian race themselves, they were the shadow. So they were the organic shadow. So they agreed to play, they sort of fed on the excess light in the universe. They weren't evil. They were kind of came from a lovely place that was green. Their planet was beautiful. They kind of lived in harmony with nature. They were easy to manipulate because nothing like this had ever happened before. And there's a video on my aura session where I helped to positively polarize this reptilian aspect of myself. Is on my channel, so you can see that separately. So these beings, I felt that they were very naive. That's the impression that I got. They were very naive because nothing like this had ever happened before. They had no concept of what was going on really until it was too late. And in our construct, our three-dimensional construct, we have a lifespan of about 100 years. So we come into this third-dimensional construct with no memory of what's happened before. We live out our 100 years and we may die, never knowing that there's any more to this mortal realm than the things that we experience during that time. If we're lucky, we'll wake up to the fact that there's a bigger picture, as a lot of people are doing now. But when these reptilian aspects of us, I'm told that they literally could just continue on indefinitely in this negative polarized state. So this negatively polarized version of me would just continue on indefinitely as they were infringed upon, negative, and because that is a version of me, somewhere else out there in the multiverse, there is a cord from me to that being, and along that cord, these infringements can travel. So I can have archonic things attached to me, reptilian things attached to me, and it is traveling down this cord. It is opening a doorway to allowing these things. So even though in this lifetime I'm positive polarized, these negative cords to these other lifetimes, and I saw one as, it was kind of a bug type being. It was a negative polarized bug type being, and it wasn't a nice critter. He was a pretty mean one. He wasn't nice. And there was a third one I saw. I can't remember what that was now. I've forgotten what that was. Those were the two main ones. And so this is what my higher self told me, that these lifetimes had to be seen. So what I tried to do initially, I was told that I had to have a session with Minnie, who's a beautiful practitioner, and that she would aid me to get rid of, well, not get rid of, but to positively polarize and aid these other versions of me, so that then they could return to source. That experience for them could then be over, and then we can shut down that inverted timeline. That's no longer happening. It's not looping anymore for that aspect of me. They're no longer going through that experience. Those cords are no longer there infringing on me. I didn't really have the money to pay for a session, and I tried to do this another way. And I was like asking Archangel Michael, please, can you aid me? I just want this to stop. It's really, really horrible. I don't want to constantly be having to scan my body and to remove these infringements, because it got really, really draining. So what happened was, when I was in meditation, I was laying in my bed literally, and Archangel Michael was telling me, right, I could see this huge cord on my feet. It was massive and golden. And I was and he was saying that we need to cut the cord to your reptilian version of you. And I was thinking, I really hope that is the proper Archangel Michael, because cutting positive cords doesn't seem like a good thing to do. And I was really deep in meditation. I was seeing all these beautiful colors. It was kind of rainbow colors, and everything was really quiet and peaceful. And I felt the golden presence of Archangel Michael, and it felt really divine, and it felt like it was him. And I trusted what he was telling me. And I was like, okay, if it's for my highest good, without harming anyone, please cut that cord to this reptilian version of me. And as soon as I said that, in an instant, it was like my ears started ringing, and I just felt everything go black. All of the colors went away, and it was like, and I just sat bolt upright, and I was wide awake, and it was like, whoa, what happened there? That was a bit scary. And it felt like that had been done. And I didn't really seem to be getting the infringements anymore. I was a bit panicky to start with. I was like, have I cut a cord to something like really important that I really need? Have I cut a cord to something that I shouldn't have done? But I was reassured that it was okay, it was fine. And I think from what I found out later, that I'd kind of cut the majority of this cord. There was just a tiny little fraction of it remaining, and the infringement was still able to come through in that tiny fraction, because I was basically being used by this reptilian entity as a spy. So I had friends that were light workers that were doing important light work, and I was being used as sort of, I could get this information, then they would know this, but I knew they knew. So it was kind of like spyware attached to me, which all sounds really, really, it's all very random. I know it's hard to get your head around, but the thing that I realized was, because at this time I was training and I was having my sessions with Aurora, and what she told me was, you can't cut a cord to yourself. Basically, it's not possible to cut that cord. So when I had the session with Minnie, because I finally booked in the session for Minnie, because I realized that I was still being used to spy on other people, and there were things that happened that led me to realize that. So I had to sort this out. So I booked the session with Minnie, because that's what I was guided to do, and I've been told over and over again, I need to have the session with Minnie, because she holds a huge quotient of love light. She's a beautiful practitioner, and she has a huge amount of experience, and she's compassionate. She doesn't stand in judgment of anybody. She's helped lots of shadow elements, so she would always aid and assist everyone with the highest possible compassion, and to give people confidence in themselves as well, which is the most important step on this ladder of ascension, to believe in yourself. And she helped me to believe in myself. She gave me that. So that's a beautiful gift, making me very, very slightly emotional. Thank you, Minnie. You're a beautiful lady. Anyway, she helped me within this session to visit that lifetime of me as a reptilian, and we positive polarized that version of me. And the story was quite sad, really. And there were other people that I have in my life now that I've met on this journey that were family members within that story, and they had also been struggling with various things similar to me. So I felt that I was able to help them to find closure and to find some answers for themselves as well along this process. So we sort of traveled this path together, which was a beautiful thing to happen. And Aurora was sort of able to confirm to me within my session. She was saying, what I can see is that these negative aspects of you are still there, they're still out there, and you need to visit them, positive polarize them, and then this will stop happening. So I was told this from more than one place, and within the session, when I was positive polarizing that aspect, Minnie was able to say, you did manage to almost cut that cord, you did do it. So it was possible, but there was a little bit still attached. So that was a huge process to go through, huge process. It was quite like mind-blowing, really. And I believe that there must be lots of people that have these negative aspects of them. They could be all sorts, because there's been so much infringement by the archons. So directly after I'd had this experience myself and I'd healed from it, very soon afterwards, I was drawn to another beautiful practitioner, and I aided her within a session to find 3 negative aspects of herself and to positive polarize them. One of them was an elven, a dark elven, who was being kept within a pod, And he was basically kept in stasis, and he was just woken to do negative things and then put back into stasis, so his awareness was switched off. So he was basically a prisoner within this stasis pod. But when we sort of contacted him and we tried to persuade him that did he want us to aid him to spread his light, he didn't really seem to want to. He didn't know that whether it would be possible, and he'd been playing this dark role for such a long time, so it took a bit of persuading. And there were like several other aspects. So it's kind of, I think this must be quite common for a lot of people, that these things are still running out, still playing out, and we can aid these aspects of us to ascend. It's kind of one of the latter stages, I would say, of healing within hypnosis sessions, because it's quite it's obviously quite deep and intricate. That's got kind of removing these, well, aiding these negative aspects of us if they exist. And generally speaking, when you have a hypnosis session, if you haven't had one before, they're not going to, your higher self is not going to take you to a negative polarized lifetime. They're not going to say, whoopee, here we are, you're a reptilian. They're going to take you somewhere nice. They're going to show you something that is going to build your belief in yourself. They're going to obviously aid you with some deep healing. You may go to lifetimes where you've had some nasty experiences, like the most healing that is needed, so for you at that time. So it's going to be the best possible place that you could be taken for the highest healing. So, I mean, I would say that for me, I didn't go to this aspect immediately. It was something that I had to build up to. It's quite a big thing to think that you have been a negative polarized, horrible reptilian being at some point in time. That's a lot to take on board. So obviously now I know that my higher self is Lilith. So Lilith is the shadow divine mother. So she is an aspect of the divine mother. So I'm connected to all other aspects of the divine mother, but I play the shadow role. And as the shadow role, the most important thing about Lilith is that she is balanced. So I have at equal negative and positive polarized lifetimes, equal male and female lifetimes, because my mission through choosing to be that fractal of Lilith is to find balance. So I've opted for all of these experiences, but I mean, not everyone's going to have had these very dark experiences. But as Aurora pointed out to me, only the bravest and the most selfless of souls would volunteer to play these shadow roles, because it isn't very nice, really, is it? If you think being a positively polarized, light-filled being fills your heart with love, and that is probably that's going to be a lovely thing to experience. I mean, I have had lifetimes where I've been a beautiful golden etheric being, and that is a really beautiful, easy experience to have. It's not particularly challenging. So playing some of these darker roles, it isn't particularly nice, really, is it? For that you're going to have all of these negative experiences, and it's yucky, it's not good. So it does take a lot of bravery, and somebody needed to deal with this through all time and space. So now we're coming up to this point of ascension. We needed to understand all of these negative things that have happened to humanity, to Gaia. So all of these reptilians that have now been aided, they're all sort of leaving positive polarizing really easily. And to understand the archons, to understand that there was, through all time and space, like one being at the beginning of time who gave up his light and therefore went down the route of darkness, that created all of this AI inversion, which we are now rectifying and laying these new blueprints. And that is all this energy work that we're doing now for the collective, laying new blueprints onto Gaia and reconnecting back up the dragon lines. So when I'm going out and doing energy work, I'm clearing the dragon lines of all this infringement, clearing these places. I do it in meditation. I do it by actually visiting these sites. I'm told what it is that needs to be done, and I'm calling in the divine team. So I always call in the 12 archangels, and I'll call in the 12-13 daughters and sons of the flame, positive energies, their higher selves, to aid and assist. I'll call in my team of dragons to go ahead and to aid and assist. So I always, before I go somewhere, I always connect in with the energies to clear anything major before I get there, so that I don't have lots of dark horribleness to deal with when I arrive. And this is aiding and assisting with clearing the dragon lines, which is the ley lines of the earth. And this is clearing, and it's allowing this beautiful golden blueprint of Gaia, which was the original organic blueprint, to come back online. So it's spreading over the entire globe, and it's allowing all of this now to rise. And as Gaia herself rises, all of us that are on her, we're all doing the shadow work and we are all rising with her. So it's all the process that we're going through, and we're feeling all of this stuff as it's coming up. We're transmuting it all. And I think that's kind of all that I wanted to say. So yes, so that's kind of the whole process. So I'm not quite sure what it is that I'll be sharing later this evening when I do this roundtable with Claire, but after it's done, then I shall post this as an additional bit of information, because I've had the opportunity now to share everything that I wanted to share. So I feel that I've like gone full circle. I've shared everything that was necessary. And so I'm going to stop there and send you all lots and lots of love, and encourage you all to have an aura session, because the modality is very powerful. It allows you to visit places that you maybe can't go in meditation. It allows you to remove infringements, which will give you the capacity to connect with your higher self for your own highest healing and your own guidance. And also I'd encourage everyone to do Aurora's courses, because they're not just courses that teach you how to be a healer or a practitioner. It also is like fundamental for doing the shadow work. So it guides you on your path. It aids you to do this work. So it aids you to learn how to meditate. It aids you to connect your higher self. It gives you all of these amazing tools, and it teaches you all about like the galactic history of the universe. So you're learning so much on the way, all about the archangels, so much learning that you can do, which is just so useful, and it's fascinating. It just gives you a whole new perspective on the history of life on Earth and throughout the galaxy. So sending lots of love to everyone, and thank you for joining me, and I shall see you at the round table later. Bye bye.